The void between Mars and Jupiter held secrets humanity had yet to discover. Captain Sarah Chen never expected to find one of those secrets bleeding radiation and trailing debris across her patrol route. The object appeared on the Dauntless's sensors as a mass of exotic metals, unlike anything in the database, its whole design too elegant to be human-made. Multiple hull breaches detected, reported Lieutenant Rodriguez from his station. But I'm picking up life support systems still functioning in the central chamber. And there's something else, Captain. The energy signatures, they're not random damage. This ship was running from something. Sarah studied the holographic display, noting the systematic pattern of damage across the vessel's port side. Whatever had attacked this ship hadn't been trying to destroy it. They'd been trying to disable it. Launch rescue shuttles, she ordered. Full containment protocols, but I want those survivors found. The alien vessel's airlock yielded to their emergency override codes with surprising ease. Inside, emergency lighting cast purple shadows through crystalline corridors that seemed to pulse with their own inner light. The rescue team found 3 survivors in the ship's control center, tall, ethereal beings with iridescent skin and 4-fingered hands that ended in delicate points. The one who appeared to be their leader spoke first, their words translated through a device at their throat. I am Administrator Ven of the Concordiate. We came seeking you, though we hoped it would be under better circumstances. They paused, silver eyes reflecting the emergency lights. Your species has been watched for centuries, classified as too unpredictable for contact. Now that very unpredictability may be the galaxy's last hope. Sarah felt the weight of history pressing down on her shoulders. First contact, and it came with a warning. What are you running from? We call them the hive mind. They emerged from the dark space between galaxies 6 of your months ago. At first, we thought them simply another spacefaring race, but we were wrong. They are a collective consciousness controlling billions of biomechanical units, each one capable of adapting and evolving in real time. They consume civilizations, not for resources or territory, but for information. The administrator's hands moved in intricate patterns as they spoke, bringing up a holographic display of worlds being systematically taken apart. The Concordiate was among the most advanced civilizations in the known galaxy. We had achieved perfect efficiency in our society, eliminated conflict through pure logic and reason. We thought ourselves invincible. A bitter laugh escaped them. We were the first to fall. Our perfect predictability made us perfect prey. How many others? Sarah asked, dreading the answer. 17 civilizations have fallen. The hive mind analyzes patterns, social structures, military responses, technological advancement. Once they understand how a species thinks, defeat is inevitable. But humans, Ven turned to face her directly. Humans are different. You act against your own self-interest. You make decisions based on emotion rather than logic. Your art, your music, your warfare, all of it defies the patterns the hive mind relies upon. Lieutenant Rodriguez spoke up from where he was examining their damaged systems. You're saying our greatest weakness might be our greatest strength. Precisely. The hive mind cannot predict what it cannot understand, and it cannot understand that which follows no discernible pattern. We brought you something. Ven gestured to one of their companions, who retrieved a crystalline sphere from a secured compartment. This contains the sum of our technological knowledge. We offer it freely, hoping that human ingenuity combined with our advanced science might achieve what pure logic could not. Sarah took the sphere, feeling its warm pulse against her palm. How long do we have? The hive mind moves methodically through space, based on their current trajectory, 3 of your months before they reach your solar system. We can help you prepare, but you must act quickly. Your world leaders must be convinced. They will be, Sarah said with a conviction that made Ven tilt their head in curiosity. If there's one thing humans do well, it's uniting against a common enemy. She activated her comm link to the bridge. This is the captain. Set course for Earth, maximum speed, and get me a direct line to Central Command. Priority 1. As the Dauntless changed course, Sarah looked back at the alien vessel, now being taken in tow. Humanity's first contact with an advanced civilization had come not with an exchange of knowledge or peaceful greetings, but with a desperate warning and a race against time. Yet somehow, she felt a spark of hope. If unpredictability was truly the key to survival, then humanity's greatest weaknesses might prove to be their greatest strength. The stars streaked past the viewports as they accelerated toward Earth, each one a reminder of what they stood to lose. But Sarah Chen had never been one to accept defeat, and neither had humanity. The real question wasn't whether they would fight. It was how creative they could get in doing so. The underground facility beneath the Rocky Mountains buzzed with an energy that bordered on chaos. Dr. Maya Patel watched as human engineers and Concordiate scientists worked side by side, their collaboration a strange dance of precision and improvisation. On the main testing floor, a prototype weapon system pulsed with an otherworldly glow, its power readings fluctuating wildly. "Your people are quite unusual in their methods," observed Kex, her Concordiate counterpart. The alien scientist's crystalline growths shimmed with what Maya had learned to recognize as confusion. "This modification reduces the weapon's efficiency by 37%. Maya smiled, adjusting her holographic display. "That's exactly the point. The hive mind expects optimal efficiency. They'll be prepared for weapons operating at peak performance. But what happens when they encounter systems deliberately designed to be unpredictable?" The test chamber ahead of them housed their latest creation, a hybrid defense platform that combined Concordiate energy manipulation with human randomization algorithms. As they watched, the platform's shields flickered between different frequencies, its weapon ports shifting positions in patterns that seemed to follow no logical sequence. "Initial simulations are promising," Maya continued, pulling up the data streams. "When we fed this into the combat scenarios based on your records of hive mind attacks, their adaptation algorithms struggled to establish a baseline. They couldn't predict where the next shot would come from, or at what strength." Kex's inner lights pulsed rapidly, their version of excitement. "Fascinating. You've taken our most advanced technology and made it worse, yet somehow better." They paused, head tilted. "Though I must point out that this approach consumes significantly more energy. That's where the second part of our strategy comes in." Maya led them to another section of the facility where massive crystalline matrices hummed with power. "We're not just building weapons, we're building decoys, entire fleets of ships designed to waste the hive mind's processing power. Every time they analyze one of our patterns, we'll switch to something completely different." The main strategic center of the facility was a testament to this philosophy. Holographic displays showed hundreds of simulation scenarios, each one more unconventional than the last. Traditional military doctrine had been thrown out the window in favor of strategies that would have made ancient generals weep. Commander James Walsh, the gruff veteran in charge of tactical development, was currently arguing with a group of Concordiate military advisors. "Look, I know it sounds crazy, but that's exactly why it'll work. We're going to have ships that appear to be damaged, moving erratically, only to reveal that they're perfectly fine and armed to the teeth. Others will look like they're at full strength, but are actually decoys. The energy expenditure would be astronomical," one of the advisors protested. "Exactly," Walsh grinned. "The hive mind operates on efficiency. We're going to give them the opposite. Every time they think they've figured out our pattern, we'll throw something new at them. Hell, we're even designing ships that will deliberately take hits just to sell the deception." Maya watched as understanding slowly dawned in the aliens' expressions. The Concordiate had spent millennia perfecting their technology, striving for the ultimate in efficiency and predictability. Now they were watching humans intentionally build flaws and randomness into that same technology. In another section of the facility, Dr. Sarah Chen, now promoted to admiral, was overseeing the integration of human emotional response patterns into combat AI systems. "The key," she explained to a fascinated group of alien observers, is that we're not trying to make perfect decisions. We're programming in hesitation, fear, even the occasional bout of irrational courage. But why would you want your combat systems to experience fear? Asked one of the observers. Because fear makes you unpredictable, Sarah replied. When a human is afraid, they might run, or they might fight with unprecedented ferocity. The hive mind won't know which to expect. Maya's own team was working on what they called chaos engines, systems designed to introduce controlled randomness into every aspect of their operations. Ships that could change their energy signatures mid-battle, weapons that could switch between different types of attacks without warning, and defense systems that adapted in ways that defied logical prediction. As she reviewed the latest test results, Maya felt a strange mix of pride and amusement. Here they were, taking the most advanced technology in the known galaxy and deliberately making it less perfect. The Concordia had spent centuries eliminating variables and uncertainties from their systems. Humanity's first act was to put them all back in. 2 months until projected contact, Kex noted, their voice carrying a hint of what might have been hope. Do you really believe this approach will work? Maya watched as another prototype cycled through its randomized sequences, its performance metrics dancing across her display in beautiful chaos. The hive mind expects every species to act in its own best interest, to follow logical patterns. We're going to show them something they've never seen before, a species that's willing to take crazy risks, that actually thrives on chaos. She thought about the reports from their first contact simulations, where human pilots had successfully confused hive mind response patterns by flying directly at them, performing maneuvers that no logical being would attempt. We're not just preparing for war, she said. We're preparing to show them that not everything in the universe can be predicted or controlled. Above them, through the reinforced ceiling of the facility, the stars continued their ancient dance. Somewhere out there, the hive mind was approaching, its vast consciousness expecting to find another predictable civilization to analyze and consume. Instead, they would find humanity, messy, emotional, and gloriously unpredictable humanity. And maybe, just maybe, that would make all the difference. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the EFS Prometheus, watching as the first wave of Hiveman vessels emerged from the darkness beyond Neptune's orbit. Their biomechanical ships moved with perfect precision, each vessel part of a larger pattern that spoke of cold calculation and ruthless efficiency. Multiple contacts, approaching in standard attack formation, reported Captain Rodriguez, now her tactical officer. Just as the Concordia data suggested, they're moving to surround our apparent defensive line. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. Time to show them why they shouldn't trust appearances. Launch Operation Chaos. The human fleet, which had appeared to be arranged in a traditional defensive formation, suddenly burst into what looked like complete disarray. Ships began moving in seemingly random patterns, some appearing to flee while others charged directly at the enemy. Energy signatures fluctuated wildly as vessels powered up and down in no discernible sequence. Through the tactical display, Sarah watched as the hive mind's perfect formation hesitated. For the first time in its existence, it faced an enemy that didn't follow the rules of logical combat. They're attempting to analyze our pattern, Kex observed from their advisory station, crystal formations gleaming with excitement. But there is no pattern to analyze. The first engagement proved the effectiveness of their strategy. As Hivemind vessels moved to intercept what appeared to be damaged human ships, they found themselves caught in elaborate traps. Ships that seemed to be retreating in fear suddenly turned and attacked with surprising ferocity. Defense platforms that appeared to be operating at full power turned out to be decoys, while seemingly powerless ones concealed devastating weapons. Energy spike from the main Hivemind vessel. Rodriguez called out, "They're adapting their weapons frequency. Initiate protocol madness," Sarah ordered. Across the fleet, ships began randomly switching between different shield frequencies, some even deliberately taking glancing hits to maintain the illusion of chaos. The Hivemind's precisely calibrated weapons found themselves striking shields operating on completely unexpected energy levels. But the enemy was far from defeated. A group of hive mind ships broke through their lines, their weapons tearing through several human vessels. The screams of dying crew members echoed through emergency channels, a harsh reminder that this was no simulation. "They're learning," Kex warned, their usual calm demeanor showing signs of stress. "The hive mind is attempting to establish baseline patterns in our randomness." Sarah had expected this. Execute Phase 2. Let's show them what real chaos looks like. From behind Neptune's largest moon emerged a second human fleet, ships that had been hidden using a combination of Concordiate stealth technology and deliberate energy leaks that had masked their true numbers. But instead of attacking, these ships began broadcasting a cacophony of conflicting signals, filling space with so much random data that the hive mind sensors struggled to process it all. "Their response time is slowing," Maya reported from her science station. "The chaos engines are working. They're having to devote more processing power to analysis instead of combat." The battle continued for hours, a strange dance of order versus chaos. Human ships performed maneuvers that defied traditional space combat doctrine, sometimes seeming to work against each other only to reveal complex stratagems that no logical mind could have anticipated. The hive mind's perfect formations began to show signs of strain as they failed to establish reliable patterns in the human defense. But victory came at a heavy cost. A third of the human fleet had been destroyed or disabled, their crews sacrificing themselves to maintain the illusion of randomness. The Prometheus itself bore deep scars where hive mind weapons had tested their defenses. "Enemy fleet is retreating," Rodriguez announced, his voice heavy with both exhaustion and triumph. "They're falling back beyond Neptune's orbit." A cheer went up from the bridge crew, but Sarah remained focused on the tactical display. "They'll be back," she said quietly. "This was just a probe, a test to gather data about our capabilities." "But it worked," Maya insisted, pulling up battle analysis on her screens. The randomization strategies confused their response patterns. Ships that should have been easy targets survived because the hive mind couldn't predict their actions. "The real question," Kex interjected, "is whether they can adapt to unpredictability itself." Sarah watched as rescue ships moved to retrieve survivors from the damaged vessels. The hive mind had indeed retreated, but not in defeat. They had withdrawn to analyze this new form of warfare they had encountered. The next battle would be harder. They would need to be even more unpredictable, even more willing to defy convention. "Begin downloading combat data," she ordered. "I want every unexpected success, every failed prediction from their side analyzed. Next time, we'll need to be even more random, even more chaotic." As the fleet regrouped, Sarah could see the mixture of grief and determination on her crew's faces. They had lost friends and colleagues today, but they had also proven something vital. Humanity's unpredictability could indeed stand against the perfect logic of the hive mind. The question now was whether they could sustain that advantage in the face of an enemy that never stopped learning, never stopped adapting. The stars seemed dimmer somehow, as if they too mourned the lives lost in humanity's first major engagement with the hive mind. But among those stars, hope had taken root. Hope born from the realization that sometimes the best way to fight perfection was with deliberate imperfection. In the depths of the Lunar Research Facility, Dr. Maya Patel stared at her data screens in disbelief. The neural patterns displayed before her seemed impossible, yet they perfectly explained everything they'd observed in their battles against the hive mind. "Admiral Chen needs to see this immediately," she told Kex, who had become her constant companion in their research. The alien scientists' crystalline formations pulsed with curiosity as they studied the same data. Within an hour, Admiral Sarah Chen stood in Maya's lab, along with key members of both human and Concordiate leadership. The holographic display showed a complex web of neural activity recorded during their battles with the hive mind. "We've been focusing on the wrong thing," Maya explained, highlighting specific patterns in the display. "Yes, our randomized tactics confused them, but that's not our real advantage. Look at these readings from our combat pilots during the Neptune engagement. The display shifted to show brain activity during key moments of the battle. When our pilots felt fear, their responses became unpredictable, that we knew. But look what happened when they felt other emotions: anger, hope, determination. Their decision-making patterns became not just random, but innovatively random. "You're saying our emotions are creating new patterns?" Sarah asked, leaning closer to the display. "More than that," Maya replied. "Our emotions are creating patterns that evolve faster than the hive mind can analyze them. Every time a human pilot feels something strongly, their responses change in ways that no logical system could predict." Kex's crystals flickered rapidly, their equivalent of excitement. "This explains why the Concordiate fell so quickly. Our responses were based purely on logic and training. But humans, your emotions create infinite variations in your responses." Maya brought up another display, this one showing comparative data. The hive mind operates on pattern recognition and adaptation. They can eventually adapt to any logical pattern, no matter how complex. But human emotions don't follow logical patterns. They create new neural pathways in real time, leading to decisions that even we can't predict. And that's why our chaos strategy worked better than expected, Sarah realized. We weren't just being random. Our pilots were emotionally invested in the randomness itself. "Exactly," Maya nodded. "When our pilots got excited about tricking the enemy, when they felt pride in pulling off an unexpected maneuver, those emotions created new patterns of behavior that the hive mind couldn't anticipate. We're not just being unpredictable, we're evolving our unpredictability faster than they can adapt." One of the Concordiate leaders stepped forward, their tall form casting elegant shadows in the lab's light. "For millennia, we saw emotions as a weakness to be overcome. We believed that pure logic was the height of evolution. We were wrong." Maya pulled up more battle data. "Look at these instances where our ships seemed to perform impossible maneuvers. In each case, the pilot was experiencing intense emotions: fear, determination, even joy. The hive mind can't predict these actions because they don't just defy logic. They defy their own previous patterns." "Can we weaponize this?" Sarah asked, her tactical mind already racing with possibilities. "We already have, in a way," Maya replied. "Those chaos engines we developed. They work better when the crew is emotionally engaged with their mission. The randomness becomes more creatively random, for lack of a better term." She brought up one final display, showing a new design. "I propose we modify our ship's neural interfaces. Instead of trying to filter out emotional responses, we should amplify them. Let our pilots feel everything more intensely. Let their emotions drive their decisions even more directly." "That's incredibly dangerous," one of the human officers protested. "Emotions can lead to mistakes, to irrational decisions." "Exactly," Maya smiled. "Irrational decisions are exactly what we need. The hive mind expects us to try to minimize mistakes, to optimize our performance. Instead, we'll embrace our capacity for error, our ability to act against our own best interests when our emotions drive us." Sarah studied the data carefully. "How quickly can we implement these modifications?" "The basic changes could be ready within weeks. But there's more." Maya's expression grew intense. "I think we can go further. What if we could share emotions across the fleet? Create a kind of emotional resonance that would make our collective behavior even more unpredictable." Kex's crystals pulsed with what might have been awe. "You want to create a human hive mind, but one based on emotions rather than logic." "Not exactly a hive mind," Maya corrected. "More like emotional synchronicity. Each pilot would still be individual, still make their own choices, but they'd be influenced by the collective emotional state of the fleet. The hive mind wouldn't just have to predict individual emotional responses. They'd have to predict how those emotions interact and evolve across an entire battle group." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. They had stumbled upon something that went beyond tactical advantage. They had discovered that humanity's greatest perceived weakness was actually their greatest strength. "Begin the modifications," Sarah ordered. "And Maya, Thank you. You may have just found the key to our survival." As the others filed out, Maya turned back to her displays. The neural patterns danced before her eyes, each one a testament to the beautiful chaos of human emotion. The hivemen sought to impose perfect order on the galaxy. Perhaps what the galaxy really needed was a little more chaos, a little more feeling, a little more humanity. The massive hiveman fleet emerged from hyperspace near Mars, their biomechanical ships filling the void in perfect geometric patterns. This wasn't a probe or a test. It was their full invasion force, coming to add humanity to their catalog of conquered species. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the newly refitted Prometheus, her hand resting on the neural interface that would connect her not just to her ship, but to the emotional state of every crew member in the human fleet. Around her, the bridge crew were taking their positions, each one touching similar interfaces. "All ships reporting ready," Captain Rodriguez announced. "Emotional synchronization at optimal levels." Through the neural link, Sarah could feel it. The fear, the determination, the fierce hope radiating from every ship in the fleet. But unlike the Concordia's failed attempts at unity, this wasn't a hive mind. Each person remained distinctly individual, their emotions mixing and resonating, but never merging completely. "The hive mind is broadcasting their usual ultimatum," Maya reported from her science station. "There," she paused, checking her readings. "They're actually expressing confusion. Our emotional signatures are unlike anything they've encountered. Let's give them something else to be confused about," Sarah said, allowing herself to feel the full weight of the moment. Through the neural network, her crew felt her determination, her resolve strengthening theirs. "Execute Operation Primal." The human fleet burst into action, but not with the calculated chaos of their previous battles. This time, their movements were driven purely by emotional responses, each ship acting on the feelings of its crew amplified by the resonance of the entire fleet. Ships that felt fear retreated, only to return with desperate courage. Vessels crewed by the angry and defiant charged directly at the enemy, their very recklessness making their movements impossible to predict. Through it all, the emotional resonance kept them somehow coordinated, like dancers moving to music only they could hear. The hive mind's perfect formations began to break down as they encountered behavior that defied not just logic, but their entire understanding of combat. Their attempts to establish patterns were frustrated by the constantly evolving emotional responses of the human fleet. "They're trying to adapt," Kex observed, their crystals pulsing rapidly. But each adaptation only triggers new emotional responses, creating new patterns they must analyze. The battle spread across the solar system, a clash between cold logic and hot emotion. Human ships performed maneuvers that should have been impossible, driven by feelings that overwhelmed standard protocols and safety margins. The hive mind's precise tactical algorithms encountered decisions based on gut feelings, intuition, and pure emotional drive. But the enemy was far from helpless. Several human ships were destroyed in the initial exchange, their crews' final moments of courage and defiance rippling through the neural network, inspiring others to even greater feats of daring. Their main processing node is attempting to calculate all possible emotional combinations, Maya reported, her voice tight with concentration. "They're devoting more and more resources to prediction algorithms." "That's what we wanted," Sarah replied, feeling a surge of fierce joy that resonated through the fleet. "Execute Phase 2." At her command, a second fleet emerged from hiding behind Mars moons. But these ships were different. They carried no crews at all. Instead, they'd broadcast pure emotional data, countless hours of human feelings recorded and amplified. Fear, love, anger, hope, joy, sorrow, all pouring into space, overwhelming the hive mind sensors with data they couldn't process. "Their network is showing signs of strain," Maya announced. "The emotional data is creating feedback loops in their analysis systems. They can't distinguish between real tactical data and emotional responses anymore." Through the neural link, Sarah felt the moment the tide turned. The hive mind's perfect coordination began to falter as their processing capabilities were overwhelmed by the sheer complexity of human emotional responses. Ships that had moved in perfect unison began to act independently, their actions becoming erratic as their central control wavered. "Now," Sarah commanded, her determination echoing through the fleet. "All ships, full assault. Feel everything. Hold nothing back." The human fleet surged forward as one, yet each ship moved differently, driven by the unique emotional state of its crew. The hive mind's formations shattered completely as they faced an enemy that was simultaneously unified and chaotic, coordinated yet unpredictable. In the end, it wasn't a single decisive blow that won the battle. It was the accumulated weight of countless emotional decisions, each one creating new patterns that the hive mind had to process, each analysis leading to more complexity until their network simply couldn't keep up. The massive hive mind command ship, overwhelmed by data it couldn't process, began to break apart, its controlled dissection of captured civilizations undone by the beautiful chaos of human emotion. The rest of their fleet, cut off from central control, fell into disarray. Hours later, as rescue ships moved among the debris collecting survivors and salvage, Sarah stood at her viewport watching Mars glow red in the distance. Through the neural link, she could feel the mixture of emotions from her fleet: exhaustion, triumph, grief for the lost, and a profound sense of vindication. "We never understood," Kex said softly, approaching her. "All our technological advancement, all our logical perfection, and in the end, we were defeated because we had eliminated the very thing that could have saved us: our capacity to feel." Sarah nodded, feeling the truth of those words resonating through the emotional link she shared with her crew. Perhaps that's the real lesson here. The universe isn't meant to be perfectly ordered or predicted. It's meant to be felt, to be experienced in all its chaotic glory. As the fleet began its journey home, the stars seemed brighter somehow. Humanity had faced its greatest test and emerged victorious not by becoming more logical or efficient, but by embracing the very qualities that other species had seen as weaknesses. Their emotions, their chaos, their beautiful imperfection had proven to be the perfect weapon against an enemy that sought to impose perfect order on the galaxy. The age of cold logic was over. The time of feeling had begun.